All right, so there's some discussion online today about this game, Tales of Kera Zhao, and we've talked about this game before. We've covered this in detail about its involvement with Sweet Baby Inc. and the developers' intent behind the game and how it just isn't performing as well as they would have hoped. Now the the studio's founder, Abubakar Salim, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right, came out today with a statement on Twitter, just a little 5-minute video, and he addressed some of the claims that he only got to where he was in his career because he was black, and basically that it was all about DEI and checking boxes, which again, I've never seen anybody allege at him. It has been a topic of discussion ever since Sweet Baby Inc. and the DEI push became a real notable thing in the games industry. But unfortunately for this man, he's kind of caught in the crossfires. And while I do think he probably is coming from the right place, and I will kind of give him a pass because when I hear him speak, he is not one of these insane activist types who is trying to cram necessarily his messaging down everyone's throats. He is just trying to make the game that he wants to make and tell the story he wants to tell. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's entirely fine. Unfortunately for him, it hasn't resulted in a game that people are buying, but that's a whole separate topic. Long and the short of it is, it has caused a lot of controversy about whether or not anything involving diversity is just a DEI push. And of course, the video itself, there's some notable quotes from it. He says right here that he didn't want to address the harassment, and he claims there's harassment. This is the thing. This Tales of Kera game, they're claiming that he's been harassed, that people are being harassed over playing it. Most of us have just said the game is either based on reviews, looks kind of boring, not for me, whatever. Most of us have just had a very it's not for me approach. If you want to play it, fine, have a good time. But somehow there's all these claims that people are being harassed over the game, which I have never seen online. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, guys, more than I should. But he says he didn't want to deal with the harassment, that he's dealt with assertions that he didn't deserve the opportunities he got from the beginning of his career. No, it was simply because I'm black and I've turned the other cheek and I've just kept doing my thing, he says. He says when it's a constant barrage of them, it gets exhausting. And when it came to Tales of Kera in particular, the situation reached a fever pitch, especially as the game was roped into ongoing harassment campaigns targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Again, any harassment campaign they're talking about simply has to do with its connection to Sweet Baby Inc., unfortunately. And again, this is a man who decided to actually make a company with the co-founders of Sweet Baby Inc. So again, he directly involved himself with the situation when he worked with these people, Kim Belair and the rest of them. And of course, you can see that IGDA was deeply concerned about the increased harassment of marginalized game devs in a new statement. And this is from back in March. Again, Kat Bailey over at IGN, people that we are not friendly with if you're a gamer and you actually care about the games industry. So I just commented on this. I said a couple of things. I'd never heard of you before this game came out, and that's true. I had no idea who this guy was. And most of the things I've heard about you since have been very positive, and that's also true. I had never seen anything negative about this man. I went on to say, that being said, you can't work with a racist consultation company like Sweet Baby Inc., whose only job is to force diversity initiatives into games and then be surprised when you face some criticism. If people aren't given jobs just to check boxes on a regular basis, your argument would have been valid. Also, I'm glad you were able to tell the story you wanted to tell. That is commendable. However, there appears to be less than no support for it. Take that as you will. And at the time, when I shared this response, there were only currently 15 people on Steam playing this game. And as you can see right now, it says 23. Let's refresh it real quick. 21 people currently playing this game. It never broke an all-time peak of 287. He has even gone so far as to reduce the price of the game to try and get it in more hands, because he wants to believe that gaming is for everyone and you can have diversity and inclusion and everything else. And he has this really nice, heartwarming message. Unfortunately, it's wrapped up in this DEI Sweet Baby Inc. candy-coated message, unfortunately. I feel bad for him on some levels, I'm not going to lie. I wish that the game wasn't connected to Sweet Baby Inc., because then maybe it could stand on its own merit. Unfortunately, it's tarnished by it, and it's too late to change that. But another big reason that we're seeing a lot of this controversy, a lot of these discussions, are things like this. This article that just came out, I believe, yesterday, May 30th. From Bounding into Comics here, Warner Brothers Games launches new women and non-binary leadership program in order to upend the gaming industry's male-dominated characterization. Now, on my podcast channel, we just recently discussed the idea that Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland with the Star Wars franchise over at Lucasfilm are intentionally attacking the male fan base to, they're trying to get the idea that there's a harassment campaign and a controversy out ahead of the time before their show comes out in like 3 days, because they know the show sucks. And so they want to create a controversy and try to get an outpouring of sympathy just to garner some positive press from the mainstream media ahead of their show completely tanking and nobody watching it, despite the fact that Star Wars, video games, these kind of things are still a male-dominated industry. They're the target audience, and they don't want to appeal to these target, customers. So this article here from Bounding to Comics says, in an announcement that's sure to help the studio rehabilitate its reputation following its recent Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League and live service-related debacles, Warner Brothers Games has officially launched a new women and non-binary leadership program with the intended goal of rehabilitating the male-dominated image of the overall video game industry. Now, I don't understand what the problem is, to be honest. And again, if you're some screeching leftist, woman power, feminist type, you're not going to agree with me on this. I don't understand what's wrong with having a male-dominated industry. I don't. Whether it's coal mining, whether it's the oil industry, whether it's auto manufacturing. If there are jobs that are primarily taken care of by men, there's nothing wrong with that if they do the job properly. There's also nothing wrong with a woman going into that field and doing her job properly. But I don't think it's anybody's business to try to go into an industry that is already functioning and try to change things to suit your perspective and your desires to see in the workplace. It doesn't make any sense. It is completely counterproductive to go into something that is not for you and try to make it work the way you want it to. So this says, revealed to the public courtesy of built-in contributor Bridget Hogan on May 22nd following the conclusion of its inaugural 6-month run, the leadership program reportedly engaged 25 women and non-binary leaders from across Warner Brothers Games' 11 global studios and global publishing and central teams with the goal of cultivating career development opportunities for underrepresented individuals within the gaming sector, elevating diverse voices to leadership roles, and shaping a more inclusive future for the industry. So basically, it's diverse and inclusive for anybody who fits into a tiny box of people. And if you're outside of these marginalized groups, you're excluded. And this is the problem. This is what Abubakar Salim doesn't understand. You take these initiatives, these groups, these foundations, these organizations that are designed to push up and prop up the minority of people artificially and give them positions of authority over the majority population, and it's going to create disaster. It's going to create chaos. It's just going to create more divisiveness, which it absolutely has. And we've seen this kind of crap. But the byproduct of this is what we're seeing with the Silent Hill 2 remake, where they take a character who looked fine before, a couple characters who looked fine before, and have to completely change them to be more modern and sensible. They did things like with the nurses, where they completely changed the actual body structure of the nurses for the models that they made that you can purchase of the nurses from Silent Hill 2. Then, of course, we've seen things like Ma'am Freeze over in the Suicide Squad. Again, this game is the peak of insanity when it comes to this DEI push and the amount of money it cost versus the amount of money it has lost. And then, of course, we talked about this last night, this whole 5v5 shooter game that PlayStation just unveiled with their PlayStation, big release thing they did. And these characters are all non-binary, she, her, they, them. Every one of them designed to check a box. So unfortunately for games like Tales of Kanzara, for anybody who is unintentionally just trying to make a good product that appeals to a certain demographic, it's going to be damn near impossible to unsaddle yourself from the DEI agenda in gaming unless you directly come out and say, no, we have no intention to push any narrative. We're just telling a story. And again, Mr. Salim has tried to do that. But he himself has been connected to Sweet Baby Inc., so it's a little too late for him when all we're seeing are these initiatives being pushed by big companies like Warner Brothers, EA, Ubisoft, Blizzard. Every one of these industry giants like, Warner Brothers and Xbox and PlayStation, Sony Games, all these different companies are intentionally propping up this messaging for that ESG funding, and it's just getting to the point of insanity. All right, guys, let me know what you think about all this, and I will catch you on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.